Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Oro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Oro Reports. You know, just recently, I just realized that February isn't just a month to focus on love. It's also a time when folks look forward to the Academy Awards, like the Oscars, for example, and it's also a time when many folks like to look at classic Japanese animated films. So as such, today I'm going to talk about the legendary Hayao Miyazaki again. Yeah, if you may recall, about a year ago, I blogged Ponyo for Mermaid, and while that was an adorable and beautiful movie, there are other films in Miyazaki's library that I love. However, for today's episode, we're going to look into a movie that was released in the early 2000s, which a lot of anime fans consider as its absolute best. Released in Japan on July 20th, 2001, and in North America on September 20th, 2002, the movie is Spirited Away. Now let's get started. While traveling to their new home, 10-year-old Chihiro and her parents stumble upon a seemingly abandoned amusement park. After her parents are turned into giant pigs, Chihiro meets a mysterious boy named Haku, who promises to help her. He gets her a job working in a nearby building, which turns out to be a bathhouse for Japan's gods and spirits. Though the work is hard, Chihiro does as well as she can, and during her stay, she must find a way to save her parents before they end up getting eaten. So, what do I think? Well, this movie is, without a doubt, a real Japanese masterpiece. And it makes me regret not seeing it in theaters back then. But let's move on to Mustang Notes. Hayao Miyazaki wrote the script after he decided that the film would be based on the 10-year-old daughter of his old friend and associate producer Seiji Ukanda, who came to visit his house every summer. At the time, Miyazaki was developing two personal projects, but they were both sadly rejected. With a budget of $19 million US, production of Spirited Away began in 2000. Pixar director John Lasseter, a fan of Miyazaki, was approached by Walt Disney Pictures to supervise an English-language translation for the film's North American release. Lasseter hired Kirk Wise as director and Donald W. Ernst as a producer of the adaptation. Screenwriters Cindy Davis Hewitt and Donald H. Hewitt wrote the English-language dialogue, which they wrote to match the characters' original Japanese language lip movements. The themes of the film are heavily influenced by Japanese Shinto Buddhist folklore. The central location of the movie is a Japanese bathhouse where a great variety of Japanese folklore creatures, including kami, come to bathe. Miyazaki cites that the solstice rituals, when villagers call forth their local kami and invite them into their bathhouse. The movie has been compared to Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, as the stories have some elements in common, such being in a fantasy world, the plots including a disturbance in logic and stability, and there being motives such as food having transformational qualities, though developments and themes are not really shared. Among other stories compared to Spirited Away, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is seen more closely linked thematically. After the movie's release, it overtook Titanic in the Japanese box office to become the highest-grossing film in Japanese history, with a 30.8 billion yen total. Spirited Away received universal acclaim and is frequently ranked among the greatest animated films ever made. It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Academy Awards, making it the first hand-drawn and non-English language animated film to win such an award. It also won the Golden Bear at the 2002 Berlin International Film Festival, tied with Bloody Sunday, and it is the top 10 on the British Film Institute's list of top 50 films for children up to the age of 14. In 2016, it was voted the 4th best film of the 21st century, as picked by 177 film critics from around the world, making it the highest-ranking animated film on the list. It is also named the 2nd best film of the 21st century so far in 2017 by the New York Times. So, anyway, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, in my opinion, the Japanese animation looks absolutely astounding, and I really love how Miyazaki's team designed everything, like the bathhouse, the spirits, and the workers. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Chihiro helps a river spirit get a bicycle and a bunch of junk out of its body, and I like when she takes a train ride to Swamp Bottom. Plus, there are many things in this movie that can be very emotional, and most of it feels like a great coming-of-age film. In fact, it almost reminds me of the time, back in summer 2002, when I was on my own for the first time during scout camp. And trust me, I was really homesick without my father at the time, especially when I was 12 hours away from home. Another thing that surprised me about this movie was its release date. While The Little Mermaid 2 was released one day before my 10th birthday, this movie made its American release exactly on my 12th birthday. Anyway, now that we're done with Mustang notes, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. And, just to remind you guys, we're going to look at the English cast. Our main character, Chihiro, is voiced by a young Davy Chase. Best known as Lilo from Disney's Lilo and Stitch. And she also got to play Annabelle from R.L. Stine's Haunted Lighthouse. In the beginning of the film, Chihiro starts out very whiny, but as the film progresses, she matures into a hard-working, responsible, and brave young girl, who has learned to put her fears aside for those she cares about. To protect her friends and rescue her parents from a spell that has turned them into livestock, Chihiro sheds her former personality and adapts to her environment to become a courageous, quick-witted, and reliable girl. Next we come to Haku, voiced by Max Goof himself, Jason Marsden, who also got to be Kovu in The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. To me, Haku is very mysterious, and he's also an awesome character, due to him being a dragon spirit. In fact, his personality kind of reminds me of Riku from Kingdom Hearts. Despite the fact that he's been doing several of Yubaba's errands, Haku shares great spiritual knowledge. He can be kind-hearted and supportive at times, as well as being strict. He's also wise, and he's able to act accordingly to the situation. He is more than willing to stick his neck out when he cares for someone. Plus, Haku does everything within his power to keep Chihiro unharmed and to help her leave safely. What's interesting about Haku is that he's known Chihiro ever since he saved her from drowning when she was little. Next we have the villain of the movie, Yubaba, voiced by the late Suzanne Pleshette, who has been in Blackbeard's Ghost, and she voiced the evil lioness Zira in The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Yubaba has an extremely overbearing and intimidating personality. Plus, she's really obnoxious. Like many other workers in her infamous bathhouse, Yubaba obsesses greedily over gold, and she's shown to be willing to view gold as a priority over her own family. However, she has shown a great amount of motherly care to her son Boa. Her magical capabilities have allowed her to steal the names of her workers, binding them in a contract to her bathhouse forever unless they can manage to miraculously recall their full names. She's also seen to be able to spit fire when she's angry, and when she goes out to fly, she wraps herself in her cloak and makes herself look like a large bird. Next we have Zeniba, Yubaba's twin sister, also voiced by Suzanne Pleshette. At first, she seems to be just as dangerous as her sister, due to her paper birds attacking Haku for stealing her seal, as well as transforming Boa into a mouse, Yubaba's bird into a fly, and of course Yubaba's 3 shrunken heads into a copy of Boa, I think. But anyway, when Chihiro visits her in Swamp Bottom, her true nature is revealed as a kind and helpful old lady. Zeniba gives encouraging advice to Chihiro about remembering Haku's name, and she later forgives him for the theft of her seal. I also find it very heartwarming when Zeniba asks Chihiro to call her Granny. Our next character is Kamaji, an 8-armed boiler man voiced by the late David Ogden Stiers. Best known as Cogsworth from Disney's Beauty and the Beast, Governor Radcliffe and Wiggins from Pocahontas, the Archdeacon from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Jumba Jookiba from Lilo and Stitch, and of course Nicky Flippers from Hoodwinked. In my opinion, Kamaji seems very helpful to Chihiro. Plus, he seems like a kind grandfather-like character. Plus, I think his long arms are very handy when operating the boiler. Also, I think his sootball assistants are really nice characters, like when they keep Chihiro's shoes and clothes safe. Some of my favorite scenes involving Kamaji is when he puts a blanket on Chihiro when she's sleeping in the boiler room, and when he gives Chihiro train tickets to Swamp Bottom. Next up we have Lynn, voiced by an actress whom I've met named Susan Egan. Who has been in another Miyazaki film, Porco Rosso. And she's known for voicing Meg from Disney's Hercules. And of course, she was the first Broadway belle in Beauty and the Beast. Anyway, Lynn becomes Chihiro's caretaker when she's assigned to her as an assistant, and she helps her several times during the course of the movie. In my opinion, Lynn is very strong-hearted, stubborn, and occasionally bossy, although she has a good heart and cares for Chihiro. And she's also quick to defense, and her attitude and words are often very sarcastic. She is also very protective, as she hides Chihiro when sneaking her up to the top floor to see Yubaba. And she also comforts Chihiro while attempting to cure the river spirit by telling Chihiro that she won't let him hurt her. Next we have the bathhouse managers, Chichiyaku and Aniyaku, voiced by Paul Eading and Pixar's good luck charm John Ratzenberger. At first, these guys aren't very happy that Yubaba has hired Chihiro due to her being human. However, they gradually come to accept and even cheer for her as she helps the river spirit, and when she saves the bathhouse from No-Face. Speaking of which, next we have No-Face, who doesn't seem to have an official voice actor, unless you count Bob Bergen, who also voices a frog named Anugiru. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, this character is a lonely spirit who begins to follow Chihiro after having developed an interest in her sincerity. His vocabulary consists of grunts and moans as opposed to coherent words. Not knowing much about the bathhouse or about other spirits in general, No-Face learned by example and adapted to his surroundings. However, No-Face becomes very hostile, greedy, and manipulative after he eats 3 of the bathhouse workers until Chihiro feeds him the river spirit's dumpling. But aside from that, I think No-Face is a peaceful character, and I like when he gives Chihiro the bathhouse tokens and when he accompanies her to Swamp Bottom. And finally, we have Yubaba's baby, Boa, voiced by my favorite voice actress, Tara Strong. Despite the fact that we don't see this oversized baby too much in the movie, I think he's pretty spoiled, but he does become a better character while he's in the form of a mouse, and of course when he stands up for Chihiro nearing the end of the movie. And now, let's move on to my final words. Overall, Spirited Away is a magnificent movie and truly deserves to be Hayao Miyazaki's magnum opus. It has superb and beautiful Japanese animation, a great coming-of-age story, the main character Chihiro is very relatable, and I love her friendship with Haku. The other characters like Lin and Kamaji are all memorable, the voice acting is amazing, and the musical score is very emotional. If you guys haven't seen this movie yet, I highly recommend it. And trust me, you and your family will really love it. So, with that said, I give this movie a perfect rating of 100%. Also, I'm glad this movie got me more interested in watching other films from Miyazaki's library. In fact, one of my theater friends has asked me to blog another one of these. But to find out which one, you'll have to tune in for my next blog. Mustang Power.